Hi, how's it going? Today we're going to get set up with the A3. We're going to download it, we're going to import it, and we're going to configure it and run our very first backup. We're going to be doing this on XCP-ng, but as you can see from this documentation at docs.quadrixsoftware.com, there's a lot of different deployment options, and we can meet almost any deployment style that you need. So you can just take a moment and read over these documents if you're following along with me. Otherwise, we're just going to go right on to the download. So we're just going to click download here and get that kicked off. And once that's downloaded, you are going to use the file import command in XCP-ng or XenCenter, and you're going to import that XVA file in, and it will show up as a new VM. I've named mine A3 demo, as you can see right there. From there, we can just go to the console. Okay, we have the A3 booted up here for the first time, and for our first time login, we're going to use the username alike, password alike. Then we're going to go ahead before we do anything else and check for updates and make sure we're on the latest and greatest. And this will just take a few minutes for stuff to apply. And we'll be right back with you. All right, that's all set. All right, we're going to go ahead and configure our backup storage. It's choice 2. We're going to select primary backup storage, which is our ADS. Primary backup storage is your primary repository for all your backup data. If you wanted to have a secondary site, that's oftentimes an offsite location. So in the case of a catastrophic incident at the primary site, you would be able to resort to your secondary site. You can set that up. For right now, we're just going to set up the primary storage, the ADS. We're going to use NFS today. We're going to use NFS version 4. Looks good. We're going to go ahead and initialize those default structures. That might just take a moment. I'm going to leave these as default, and that'll work just fine. And this will just take a moment to build out our data store. All right, that all looks good. And now we'll just start up our services. While it's starting, it's just determining its state that it's in, making sure everything's good to go here. And now we just want to get this IP that we're going to be 2.53 here. Okay, now we can just jump right over and log right in. We're going to use this account that I already set up. We log in, and you might see an initial setup wizard. If you do, and you're following along with me, you can just click those boxes and close right out of it. We're going to go right over to the subscription section here. Now, because I already set up a trial for myself with this account, AssistanceAt, I'm pretty much ready to go here. And you want to make sure if you went into portal.quadrixsoftware.com and you set yourself up a subscription under a certain user, you want to make sure you're logging in the first time with that user. Because whatever user you use to log in the first time owns that A3. So that's a very important relationship to have between the user that logs in and the owner. You want to make sure that's set up the right way. And we just click add here, and then we can click refresh. And now we're going to be all set up and ready to go with this A3 here under our subscription and ready to run backups. We can advance to manage hosts and add our first hosts. We just give that a test if we want. Hit save, and it will now run a enumeration job and figure out everything it needs to know about this host and what's running on it. So that will take a few minutes. It's a good idea just to have some patience at this step and make sure this gets taken care of. We can see that the enumeration job is started, and it will be grabbing all the information about the VMs running on that host. All right, that should be finished up now. You can see the job is done. And now we have two hosts here because of this is a pooled environment here. So it grabbed both hosts, and since we had licenses available, it went ahead and licensed them both. It's a good idea here to make sure that you have your ABD deployed. The ABD is a tiny little miniature kind of satellite appliance that we use to communicate with Zen and perform backup. So we'll just go ahead and say deploy, and that will get that spun up for us, and should be good to go. If we want to, we could run an ABD diag job, and that will just tell us a little bit about our environment and its performance. So that's nice to do, to just make sure you have your network settings set up the right way. Defaults will use DHCP for this little appliance, and the defaults are usually good for most environments. But just to make sure that things are set up the right way for you, it does make sense to run a diag. And we can see the diag is working pretty nicely. It obtained an IP address and is up and running now. And going to run just some quick benchmarks to determine how things look. All right. And here we go. And that's winding down now. After this is done, it will check back in that ABD so it's ready for use again. And let's go ahead and run our first job, shall we? Add a new job here, do a backup job, demo job. I'm going to save this job as an inactive job, which means it will only run when we specifically instruct it to run. And we'll say demo, just filter by demo. So that's our A3 itself, and then this is a Windows demo server. All these options, default options, will work pretty darn well. So we're just going to go ahead and stick with the defaults here. See, the new demo job is ready to go, and we can just do run job now. If we go in here, show us the job in process. It will say that this is an initial backup, and the reason why it tells us it's an initial backup is the A3 actually will perform a lot better on the subsequent backup. And the first time, obviously, it needs to read that whole disk and grab all of that block data, which will take a longer period of time than a subsequent run. So this first run will be probably, in most environments, the longest backup job that you ever do. And after you've done that initial run, the next time you run it, it could be very, very fast. It might just be, a minute or two to back up. We'll just check back in a moment and see how things are cooking. All right, it does look like we're heading into the home stretch here. So probably just another couple minutes and we'll be done with our initial. All right, looks like it's captured all that data from the disk. That's just going to clean up some resources and commit that data to our storage, and we're good to go. So that then will show up under protected systems. We can see there's a new backup, has the check mark, meaning that backup has been verified as valid, and we can see it's available on local storage. If we wanted to go ahead and just back up the system again, we could certainly do that. So we're going to go back to jobs, go to scheduled jobs, and run that job again to get another backup of it. Obviously, if you're running this every day, this would give you some idea of what your performance would be like on a subsequent run. So we have not enabled CBT on this job, and CBT is change block data, change block tracking, which is available in Zen, and would allow us to skip a lot of the disk read phase and would further accelerate our backup time. Would probably make this backup take a fraction of the time that it's going to take here. So it still has to conduct a disk scan. It's just not going to find that much data to send back. But with CBT, it would skip most of that disk scan phase. So that is an optimization you could consider. So while this job finishes out, I want you guys to know we have other approaches to backup besides the Zen backup, which we call our ABD-based or enhanced backup. We also have Hyper-V protection, and we also have a technology called QHybrid, which allows you to access the inside of a Windows VM and protect at the volume level. And that can be useful for a variety of different reasons. Your A3 can protect Microsoft physical machines this way. So if you just have a standalone physical box you want to protect, QHybrid will allow you to do that. There's also situations where you're unable to take a snapshot, or you have other restrictions that prevent you from running a hypervisor-based snapshot, where it's really handy to be able to use our QHybrid technology. So those are just some different things you can consider in your Alike deployment. You can back up entire hosts in one job. You can set a concurrency level where it can be backing up 2 or more systems at once. It's fairly scalable. It's fairly network efficient, where it's only going to be sending change data back to your A3. And all those blocks are compressed on the source side as we obtain them. So again, the whole system is optimized to allow you to scale to protect large environments. Really, the only limiter is going to be choosing the correct storage platform for yourself, so you have that ability to store and scale from an IOPS perspective. Okay, so looks like that's done. Again, when we go back under protected systems, we're going to see now we have 2 entries, and we can see that second run definitely stored a lot less data. It only stored 16 gigs, 30 megs, excuse me. The first run stored 16 gigs. So that's quite a efficient delta there of only 30 megs that actually needed to be sent back. So as you can see, this is a fairly efficient way to use your storage and protect many VMs, especially if you have an environment with similar baselines, similar systems. You're going to see a huge amount of deduplication across your entire network. And that will conclude our first video here. And thanks for joining me, and we hope you like using Alike. Take care.